The union was supposed to be ceremonial, nothing more. A symbol of peace between two warring races. Princess Vera of the Drakari Empire, a warrior people born in fire and blood, had been told her husband to be was a meek creature, a diplomat from Earth, soft-spoken, cautious, and entirely unsuited for the battles of her people. To Vera it felt like humiliation. She had defeated champions, slain beasts in the arena, and led soldiers through blood-soaked campaigns. And yet, for the sake of diplomacy, she was ordered to marry a human named Elias Wren. Her first impression confirmed her doubts. When she entered the ceremonial chamber, clad in black armor that shimmered with the blue scales of a sky arm, she had slain herself. Elias looked fragile beside her. He was tall, yes, but his frame lacked the thick cords of muscle her kind prized. His voice, when he greeted her, was quiet, almost hesitant. "An honor to meet you, Princess Vera," he said, bowing his head. She tilted hers, eyes narrowed. "You sound as though you fear me already." Instead of denying it, Elias smiled faintly. "It would be foolish not to respect someone capable of tearing me apart with her bare hands." The Drakari nobles laughed cruelly at his words, taking it as weakness. Vera did not laugh. Something about the way he spoke, soft yet steady, caught her attention. But still she thought he was no warrior. Their wedding bound them in name, not in heart. Vera expected silence, distance, and maybe even shame. What she found instead was something stranger. Elias was gentle. When they walked the markets together, he asked questions of merchants, listening as though every word carried weight. When she sparred in the training grounds, he never mocked her, nor winced at the brutality. He simply watched, absorbing. And at night, when they sat together in the grand chamber, he never sought to dominate conversation, but when he did speak, his words carried an honesty rare among her kind. "You do not enjoy this marriage," he said one evening, gazing into the fire. Vera snorted. "You see much for someone who speaks little." "I only see what's true," he replied softly. "You think me weak. That's fine. But peace sometimes needs more than strength of arms." She had no answer to that. The first trial. Months passed. Rumors began to spread through the empire. Whispers of rebellion from the HFY clans, a brutal Drakari faction who despised peace with the humans. Vera thought little of it until the rebellion struck directly at the capital. The HFYs launched a sudden raid, their warriors storming the royal compound with firebombs and plasma blades. Vera leapt to defend her people, her spear flashing in the torchlight. But as the rebels crashed through walls and slaughtered servants, she realized Elias was nowhere in sight. Her heart sank. He had likely fled. Perhaps it was cowardice, or perhaps mere survival instinct. Either way, she thought, this is what comes of marrying a human. But when the smoke cleared, she found him, not fleeing, but kneeling over a wounded child, shielding the girl with his own body as the rebels advanced. He had no weapon, only his frame, soft and unarmored. Vera roared and cut down the attackers before they reached him. When the battle ended, she grabbed him by the shoulders. "Are you mad?" she demanded. "You had no blade, no shield. Why would you put yourself between a warrior and her prey?" His eyes, calm and steady, met hers. "Because the child could not protect herself. And you weren't there yet." It wasn't bravado. It wasn't the posturing of a warrior. It was simple truth spoken softly. And it unsettled Vera more than any battle ever had. Whispers of the past. That night, when the fires had been put out and the dead counted, Vera confronted Elias again. "You claim no skill in combat, no taste for war," she said, pacing. "Yet you stood your ground when even trained soldiers fled the rebels' charge. Why?" He sighed, leaning back against the wall. Because I've seen what happens when good people do nothing. She frowned. You speak as though from experience. For the first time since their union, his voice carried weight, not soft hesitation but something deeper, forged in memory. My home colony, Jericho 7, was attacked by raiders when I was a boy, he said. My father fought. My brothers fought. They all died. I couldn't lift a weapon then, but I swore if I ever faced such cruelty again, I wouldn't turn my back. I don't fight like you, Vera. But I won't run. Vera studied him. For the first time she saw not softness, but steel buried beneath his quiet exterior. Perhaps he was no warrior of the arena, but there were many kinds of warriors. The second trial. Weeks later, the HFY rebellion grew bolder. A full assault was launched on the capital, and this time even the emperor himself was threatened. Vera took command of the defenses. Her spear led the vanguard, but the rebels were countless, pouring in through breached walls and burning towers. Amid the chaos, she lost sight of Elias again. Fear struck her chest like a hammer. She found him not in hiding, but on the walls, rallying terrified servants and scholars into a defensive line. With nothing but scavenged shock pikes and barricades, he had turned panicked civilians into a shield wall that held against wave after wave of rebels. When she reached him, blood ran down his temple and his clothes were torn, but his voice, though quiet, carried across the defenders. Stand together. Hold the line. They are flesh and blood, same as us. Do not yield. The servants roared in defiance, and for the first time, Vera realized they did not see him as weak at all. They saw him as a leader. And when she joined him, spearing the rebel champion through the chest, the defenders surged forward and drove the Ashfangs back into the night. Revelation. When the last of the rebels had been slain or captured, the Empire celebrated. But Vera could not stop thinking of Elias. He was no warrior by her people's measure. His hands shook when he held a blade. His strikes were clumsy, his stance flawed. And yet, when the moment demanded it, he was unbreakable. That night, she found him alone in the gardens, washing blood from his hands. You are not what I expected, she admitted. He looked at her, faintly amused. Disappointed. No, she said firmly. Ashamed. I thought you weak because you spoke softly. Because you did not boast of your kills or demand glory. But when the Empire faltered, it was your voice that held the line. It was you who showed me that courage does not roar. It whispers and yet does not break. Elias smiled then, not triumphant but warm. And you, Vera, are not what I expected. I thought you would despise me forever. Perhaps I still should, she said with a grin. But tell me, husband, why did you not reveal this strength sooner? His answer was simple. Because strength is not for display. It is for when it is needed. And in that moment, Vera, warrior of the Drakari, realized she had married not a diplomat, not a weakling, but a warrior of a different kind. The final trial. The HFY rebellion did not die easily. A final, desperate assault came months later, an assassination strike aimed at the royal couple themselves. Dozens of elite assassins stormed their chambers in the dead of night, cutting through guards like shadows. Vera leapt from her bed, weapon in hand, ready for the slaughter. But she found Elias already standing, blade drawn.